of Indian economy. See, the Indian economy, it's a very basic chapter. You have, when I talk about Indian economy anyway, you guys know it pretty well that three basic sectors are there in Indian economy. The very first sector is the primary or the agricultural sector. The second sector is known as the manufacturing sector or maybe the industrial sector. And the third sector is the tertiary sector, or maybe you call it as the service sector for that matter. So growth in this sector is only because there has been a tremendous growth over the years in primary and secondary sector, and you need to support the primary and the secondary sector with the services that are being offered by the people who are working in the tertiary sector. So that is the reason that the tertiary sector's contribution into the GDP, that's the gross domestic product, has improved drastically over the years. So let's see and look into the set of questions that we have in this. For example, in what ways can employment be increased in urban areas? So when you have a question like that, you have to give suggestions. So please try to start with an introduction, that is urban employment. For example, when you have been asked to especially about that urban areas, so you have to tell what are the characteristics in this employment. So the main characteristics is that it is an we have both open employment in this case, which is an offshoot of rural unemployment. So you have sort of open employment and educated unemployment. It's like voluntarily people at times sit back at their place, and there is insufficient economic development, there is defect in the education system, or maybe the industrial growth has not reached up to that level that it can absorb all the people of the country. So there are some remedial measures that you can answer or you can take up when you have to give solution. For example, the very first, now I'm going to address the issues in what ways you can help it. So here are the remedies to the question that they've asked. I've given a good introduction. Please take care that you have to give a very good introduction, and then you have to suggest remedies. For example, don't just write points like this. If you have to give, if you're supposed to give a proper presentation of your answer, talk about education system and then write the point. Talk about decentralization of industries, give this point. So it's, you just frame the pointers, underline the pointers, and then just give away the information related to that pointer. For example, in the third point, there is, you can encourage self-employment, or maybe you can give the pointers of small scale industries. So the teacher comes to know that yes, you are going to talk about small scale industries. Then you are going to talk about techniques of production. So of course you have another point right here. And finally, provision of work on infrastructure. And the last point is, of course, you have to take care of infrastructure. So these are some of the areas that you are supposed to highlight and address when a question is being asked to increase or suggest, you have to suggest measures to increase the rate of urban employment. So this is how your answer should look like. Jumping on to the second question, explain how public sector, that is the sector that is owned by the government, controlled by the government, that's public sector. How does the public sector contribute to economic development of the nation? See, economic development, it's on the government that they have to ensure that a huge amount of money is invested in public sector, and the government has to take care for the welfare. It's not working for the profit as much as it's working for the welfare of the people, for economic and social distribution of wealth among the people. So public sector has to undertake all those activities and responsibilities that are not shared by the private sector. Though it provides the service at very reasonable rates, the government has to heavily invest into infrastructures like roadways, railways, bridges, electricity, dams, generating dams, the construction of other stuff like that. But this, though the government has to invest in all those sectors, but this is anyway going to help accelerate the economic development of the nation. So you've addressed this point that yes, public sector undertaking. So please mark it in pointers. For example, the first point in this case can be that public sector undertakes activities which are important for the development of the public in general. And you have to understand that even if the government at times has to take the economic burden on itself to ensure that the people stay employed. And yes, the second point can be it also requires, so this is going to be the first point in this case, this is going to be the first point, this is going to be the second point in this pointer. It provides services at lower rate. The third important point, please ensure that you write the points in bullet. Then you have to talk that all the important infrastructure projects, may it be roadways, railways, bridges, etc., require huge amount of public investment or investment made by the government. But of course, it's going to accelerate the economic development of the nation. So this is going to be the concluding statement, or you can segregate it into another bullet point. Okay guys, so this is a very important question for this exam year. So when you are answering a question that is for 1 mark, ensure stick to the word limit of 15 to 30 words. If you have a question that is asked for 3 marks, please try to stick to the word limit of 80 marks. However, if you have a question that is for 5 marks, please answer it between 100 to 120 words. Try to stick to the word limit. How much ever you know the answer, try to stick to the word limit. The next question is explain the objectives of implementing NREGA 2005. Okay, so you guys know this scheme talks about giving the right to work to the people. 100 days of employment is being provided by the government who are actually willing to work, but because they don't get employment, they are unskilled laborers. So government is going to take it on themselves that if they get registered and if they're not given employment within 14 days, they will be provided with unemployment allowance. So this question is to be divided into 3 sections. The very first section is that yes, it was a scheme implemented by government in 2000 for 2000 districts in India. Second, it came into force, that I have not written, it came into force in February 2006. Third point is going to be it is preferred, or maybe it is referred as first point this, third point this, second point you guys know it was implemented in February 2006. An additional point, this is also known as right to work because it guarantees 100 days of employment in a year by the government to all those people who are willing to work as unskilled laborers. And however, if the government has failed to provide employment services to people like that, then of course they've been given the unemployment allowance, they've been given that. So it's just another name for right to work, that's NREGA. So that's a very easy question, you guys probably know a lot about it. So let's jump on to the next question, that is explain with suitable example which part of the service sector is not growing in importance. So what happens is there is a large number of services, a large number of options that the service sector actually covers. So there are a large number of workers also that have really managed to earn a good living and perform jobs, because of course they don't have any other alternative options for them available for them. For example, I would say workers who are engaged in services, for example, small shopkeepers, maybe repair shops, maybe transportation activities, the cattle owners. So this is all that informal sector, informal category of the service sector, that yet it provides employment services but does not respect the government norms and is not getting importance, because people anyway are being they're being I would say exploited to a extent that even the government can't interfere, because it comes under that domain of informal category. So you are not registered as a worker, you are not paid according to the wage norms. So this is an important sector, and you guys are automatically, the people are forced to work under those terrible conditions because there's no alternative option for them. So this is that part of service sector that yet service sector has made a great contribution over the years, yet people are still facing issues because their problems have not been addressed. It's like they have been exploited to the next level. So give a good introduction that service sector, yes, covers formal, informal process of working conditions, and it's the informal sector that is, or informal part of service sector, that is facing a lot of criticism, a lot of exploitation, and needs to be addressed well in time.